Hello, everyone, and thank you for listening to the Fabrication Friday podcast. I'm your host, Joe Fairley, certified prosthetist, 3D printing enthusiast, and owner of Ascent Fabrication. Fabrication Friday is an all-around fun time where I talk about 3D printing applications, conduct interviews with industry leaders, and much more. Come join us every Friday for an informational discussion around the evolution of the additive manufacturing field and how we utilize various digital workflows and 3D printing methods in our daily work at Ascent Fabrication. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fabrication Friday podcast. I'm your host, Joe Fairley, here again for another awesome Fabrication Friday. We have been going nonstop the last couple of weeks, coming out with some really cool new products for the prosthetics and orthotics market, as well as having a lot of really neat outside of the P&O field, kind of one-off projects here and talking to some really interesting people. So, looking forward to heading out this afternoon, actually, to the Boston area. Heading out to meet with RLP, Rapid Liquid Print. Rapid Liquid Print does silicone 3D printing, specifically in this kind of elastomeric gel, substrate where they have the nozzle head or almost a needle, really, to inject the silicone into this substrate and actually build, your silicone part directly within this gel. And the gel is kind of acting as this support material for silicone printing, which is really interesting because that's kind of the, the downside of some other silicone 3D printers right now. You either need external supports or you're trying to use different types of silicone that would be a little bit higher in durometer, whereas once you start building up a really tall part, that part just starts to actually fall over under its own weight because the silicone underneath it can't quite support it. So RLP, check them out. Definitely going to be a fun afternoon checking out their facility and starting a pretty neat partnership with them, doing a little bit of work in the prosthetics and orthotics industry for silicone prosthetic liners. So we have our silicone tailored liner here that we've been working on with another company out in Poland, V-Bionic, for quite some time now. They have an awesome process, wonderful products. We're still going to be continuing to work on that as well with them. But just looking for some other options, with what's going on in the field right now with additive manufacturing. Things are blowing up, and new companies are coming about every week. It seems like, honestly, if you're really staying in touch with what's happening in the field, it looks like things are popping up all over the world every week. And those companies are coming out with new and improved 3D printers and filament and so it's really exciting time. And looking forward to working with RLP. We'll have some more information from them, hopefully bringing them on the podcast here soon too. So getting into the print of the week this week, this was a pretty cool kind of almost last minute thing. So we are looking at the Q cover. The Q cover is a prosthetic knee cover, microprocessor knee from Proprietary. Proprietary is a French prosthetic and orthotic manufacturing company, and they have a lot of involvement here in the US as well as other parts of the world. So Proprietary's Quattro knee didn't necessarily have a cover when it came out on the market. So I've done a little bit of work with them to come out with some pretty neat designs. And this Q cover is pretty awesome because it's actually the 9th rendition of the design itself. So V9, and honestly, I think it's the best version yet. I like the modularity of this design. So you have this inner TPU cover that very intimately mates directly over the Quattro knee. And you put that on first over the Quattro knee, and then it has this outer Q cover armor that's printed in PLA, and we can do obviously a number of awesome different colors and different designs with that. So that goes on over the TPU cover over the prosthetic knee after the fact there too, to kind of help hold everything together and give it that bit of, rigid structural integrity and for protecting the knee. The Q Cover V8, awesome cover as well. Had a lot of good feedback on it. So it's made out of VarioSure. The Q Cover V8 was a little bulky at 5 millimeters. The Q Cover V9 is only about 2 to 3 millimeters in some places. So a little bit thinner, design with that. And, the VarioSure was really, really nice because taking an impact from one of these knees, if you're out walking, and you bump it against your car or whatever else in daily life, that would be extremely robust in protecting the knee. So depending on the type of person, the VarioSure Q Cover V8 is going to be, the one that you'd want to go for. We have a number of different colors as well, so not just in black, but in blue, red, and green. So check those out as well. We're going to have both of those different covers still available, and for the prosthetics industry there. But yeah, looking at a couple of these different covers for the Q Cover armor, it's been pretty fun to do these different colors. So looking at the blue sparkle, the white marble, the carbon fiber frame, even carbon fiber polypropylene from PP Print. It's been a fun project. And what's next outside of that, that's just a cover around the knee. What's next is some modularity in the design even further to have the Q anatomical cover, which the Q anatomical cover pictured here is more or less a custom shaped cover dependent upon 3 different measurements, one of the calf, one of the ankle, and then an overall height from the top of the quattro knee to the top of the foot shell. And based on those 3 measurements, we will modify those circumferences and that shape a little bit to then build that cover exactly over the prosthesis. So the Q anatomical cover is getting a slight makeover right now to integrate into the new Q Cover V9 and Q Armor. So the Q Cover V9 as it is right now and the Armor only weigh 84 grams each. And the Q Cover prints in about 4 hours and 43 minutes, and the Armor in 4 hours and 17 minutes on the Artillery Sidewinder X2. So beautiful prints. Definitely want to make sure with both those materials, we'll get into a tech tip later, but dry your filament out. TPU, PLA, going to soak up water very, very quickly. So keep your filament dry, folks. So that's our print of the week this week. Last week we got into an awesome conversation with Zach Burhop, another 3D printing enthusiast. And, I had mentioned a new concept coming from us at Ascent Fab, where, we have all these cool design ideas for different products that we want to come out with that are outside of the prosthetics and orthotics industry, and kind of outside of like exactly the day-to-day things that we do for, custom projects. So looking for a good outlet for that. And looking around at some of the different options that are out there. You have Etsy, you have STL Flicks, if you're going to be selling just those STL designs, Patreon, maybe a couple other sites that I'm definitely forgetting off the top of my head here. Thingiverse, although it's a mostly free download site. So those type of sites would allow someone to upload a design that they have for a specific product, and actually sell that product, whether it's a digital file on some of those sites, or like on Etsy, you're actually 3D printing the object yourself, right? And then going off and selling that as well. So just because I know that right now in the 3D printing industry, there's a lot of, one-off people that aren't necessarily, associated with different companies. They might be freelancing. They might want to, have a remote position because that works best with their lifestyle. I wanted to kind of try to kill two birds with one stone in, having an outlet for us at Ascent Fab and other people and other companies to display their digital designs for STLs, as well as physical products, right? So we 3D printed this floating shelf over the last couple weeks, and the floating shelf I love. I mean, it's a great, homey tool to, either have in your home or in your office, to display some of your 3D prints like we have here, or just obviously some, family pictures or something like that. Could be in a number of different colors. This is made out of PLA. We want to start printing more things like this that are going to be used by everyday consumers. So say it's kind of like a cross between Etsy and, maybe sort of Amazon-y, where you can just search for whatever homey product, physical product you're looking for, like maybe something from Home Goods too, or a store like that. And, you're looking for something that's practical to use in your everyday life. But you might not necessarily either know or care that it's 3D printed. You're just looking for that object, right? So just because something is 3D printed doesn't mean that in some ways it really adds anything, that functionally is quite different. In some cases, we could make something physically the same as some products that are out there right now, but simply 3D print them. And in a lot of ways, that is very, financially reasonable. And in some cases, of being able to pick it up yourself in person, having those, having a big inventory in stock can be a little overwhelming for a lot of different, small companies. So being able to print things on demand has that attractive nature too for 3D printing as well, especially if it's not same day, it might be next day. So in the sense of being able to download a file and you're going to print that yourself in your house and use that for something practical, or you're a consumer coming to a website and looking for a consumer product, maybe it's something as simple as this paper towel holder that we have here in Ascent Fab. Maybe it's something that you're using for your bathroom, some like a little bar of soap holder, some little different objects like that right now are injection molded, but it could very easily be 3D printed. And this is kind of the vision that we have at Ascent Fab for, things that we could, use 3D printing for, that could be still extremely viable financially, as well as time, turnaround time goes. So looking for ways to just stir up creativity with, these different ideas, and people all over the world are doing this right now, and sharing their thoughts and products online. So with all that being said, we are coming out with a new platform, a new digital platform called Arachnid3D. So Arachnid3D is going to be this kind of all-in-one website where freelancers could go and showcase their digital files, digital work. So you could just be a designer. We're going to have different level plans for each of these different options, but you could just be a designer and just put out those designs for, either individuals to download and print themselves, or maybe that's going to a company. Maybe you make something that is one-off, or even working on a specific freelancing project for a company. So with Arachnid3D, you could be a freelancer that is connected, hence the Arachnid. We're weaving our web of connections here with different other companies that are looking for these services for digital designers. There are a number of very, very skilled CAD designers around the world. And, being able to leverage all of that for the betterment of some of these companies trying to have very skilled work done in a timely fashion, in a financially reasonable fashion, is what we're trying to empower and enable some of these freelancers to do. There's freelancing websites like Upwork, we've tried before, and a few others, but in those respects, you're kind of just left at your own will on the freelancing side. To all of that, networking is done, strictly on your own. So at Arachnid3D, you're actually going to have support from us to connect you with different opportunities for jobs. So there's also a different platform from Shapeways called MFG, where we looked at that as well. And there's this aspect of like bidding on a project in order to get a project with a certain person. So there might be a similarity there with having a freelancer through Arachnid3D bid for a specific project. However, one thing that I didn't like about MFG was that you never knew if you were going to actually, if you didn't get that project, if that person didn't select you for whatever reason, you might not even had the lowest bid or anything. They might have selected you for some other different quality that you had on your profile. You never actually knew, if you didn't get chosen, where your bid was, if it was too high, if it was very low, if it was kind of in the middle. So there really wasn't just a lot of feedback, from the manufacturing side of things, whether or not you're even on the right track for trying to land some of these clients. So we'd like to empower some freelancers and potentially some companies on an enterprise level to reach out to other designers worldwide, to reach out to other companies, to hire industrial design firms for their specific company for a particular project. One industrial design firm that we've done, we haven't quite yet done some work with them, but I know them very well. The guys at Dive, formerly Dive Design, Adam Hecht and Alex Stoll. Those guys are awesome. They have some really, really cool connections and ideas. They are also the starters of 3D Pets. 3D Pets is an awesome prosthetics solution for dogs. So brief tangent there. Dive Design, you could hire a company like Dive to work on a project for you. And then say, maybe Dive didn't have a particular printer that, they were going to be capable of printing your component. Well, if Ascent Fab has a particular printer that could print that component, then you could have, that relationship there too, that other connection within your web of through Arachnid3D to then send that print to Ascent Fab to be able to print. And then that print goes out to you as the end customer, being an individual or being a company. So having those different web of connections is something that we're really passionate about, and forwarding, what can be done with 3D printing. So on that side of things, with, the designers who could serve as freelancers for different companies or individuals, those same designers or others could have a 3D printer. And so they could be makers, this different category of making things. So maybe you're really, really good at 3D printing, and you know how to figure out what the design should be printed like. But maybe you don't have the same level of CAD experience as someone else does. So you could work with a designer to be their maker, and you could be 3D printing products for them, and sending those out to customers, or that maker who's already making and designing products can have your products listed on Arachnid3D. So, we're going to have a full-on platform shop page for different categories of things that we're printing. So, that's going to be another key aspect of this. So to the point of, at Ascent Fab, we're coming up with these cool ideas. We have the floating shelf, that'll go on Arachnid3D's shop page for consumers to purchase. And there's two other brands that we have come out with now as well. Row3D. Row3D has been really fun because I'm personally involved in the rowing industry. My wife is a former elite rower. All three of my siblings have rowed, or they're rowing now, at a very elite level and the college level. And so through this and through Saratoga Rowing Association here in Saratoga Springs, New York, we've been printing out some pretty cool rowing parts now for a little while. We have the seat cushion, which is printed out of VarioShore, has a strap. You're able to have a little bit of cushion on the seat in the boat or on an erg. And then it has a strap to hold on to the seat in the boat. We have some different spacers for the boat itself, and some other products that go on the oars. So, coming up with these new ideas for Row3D. This other brand that we have is called Printed Planter. So Printed Planter is 3D printed pottery and vases. I like to be out in my garden and tending to some of the plants and vegetables that are out there. And my mom loves to garden, so that kind of spurred the idea there a little bit. I've given my grandmothers a couple different pots now, also printed out of VarioShore. Actually, those nice earthy tones are pretty nice, and they have an additive of silver in them, antimicrobial, antibacterial, and hopefully helping a little bit of that plant growth. So different brands spurring out of Ascent Fab, Row3D, and Printed Planter. That is kind of the initial outlet that we had for putting some of these products out there. However, I feel that if you go on our website right now and you see the brands and services section up at the top of the page, it just kind of gets a little lost. And I feel like with all the different brands, the theme of the website is getting a little miscombobulated. So there's going to be some website updates coming out soon to kind of streamline and better showcase exactly what we're doing at Ascent Fab, and having a space for those different brands to go to, like Arachnid3D, is going to be that new space for them. So we're going to be working on that. Arachnid3D, the website is active right now, just arachnid3d.com. Definitely go check it out. Give us some feedback, your thoughts on it. Would love to hear from you if you're interested in coming on and being a designer or a maker, or you're at the enterprise level and you're a company looking for these services. And if you're in the prosthetics orthotics market and say you're looking for a digital designer to do your design for you, maybe you have a printer in-house, but you don't have the design capabilities, you can hire a prosthetics and orthotics designer through Arachnid3D, who might be, across the world. We have connections in India, actually, with a pair of very, very talented certified prosthetist orthotists who have these design skills as well, with their own company, Rhombus. So, there are those different connection opportunities that will come up through Arachnid3D. And if you'd like to come on as a beta tester, we're going to be launching about probably early October. The next few weeks through September are going to be pretty busy at Ascent Fab. Got a lot of things going on. But about the first week of October, we're going to officially launch Arachnid3D with some beta testers to just kind of test out this process of connecting people and making sure that they get good connections, that the designs are working, the prints are working. So through October through probably the end of the year is going to be in this kind of ramping up beta testing phase, and then a full launch come 2024. So if you're interested and you want to be a designer and a maker, reach out to me here through Ascent Fab in the chat, or the arachnid3d.com chat as well. You can email me at joe@ascentfab.com, and we can chat about different opportunities for you to showcase your work on Arachnid3D. So some cool opportunities there. I'm also, aside from getting kind of wrapped up in what Ascent Fab is doing over the next couple of weeks, so today heading out to the Boston area to go see RLP, to go talk about some silicone liner 3D printing and some other things. And then next week, I will be at the American Orthotic and Prosthetic Association National Conference in Indianapolis, the AOPA 2023 conference from Wednesday through Saturday. So the AOPA conference is specific to the prosthetics and orthotics industry. There are continuing education courses that are there. AOPA is a bit more focused on the manufacturing side of things and products and services that different companies offer, as well as getting out a lot of the education around how some of these products are being used within clinics, and a lot of the business side of the field itself. So I'll be attending some of those courses, and then actually working with Comb. So Comb is one of our partners at Ascent Fab. They have a 3D scanning solution through an iPhone 10 or newer, using the front-facing camera. Really, really awesome scanner. I use it, pretty much weekly. And we do a lot of scanning of the inside of prosthetic sockets, actually, in casts, or the outside of casts. We're within 1 to 2 millimeters of accuracy. It is super reliable, very, very accurate for what we're using it for. In some cases, you might want just a little bit more accuracy if you're dealing with smaller features like a hand. You might need lower than 1 millimeter of accuracy. So, some other different scanners might be, the scanner for you. But Comb has been a wonderful tool for us to use. You can scan as an STL or an OBJ. An OBJ is nice because it gives color in that scan. So, you're able to actually put landmarks on certain things for, us to look at Ascent Fab from a clinical standpoint. And so, we've been using Comb for a couple years now and having wonderful results, actually scanning the inside of sockets after we spray paint them matte black, and then bringing that into Autodesk Mesh Mixer and manipulating that scan to get what we want out of it. So I'm going to be giving a presentation through the Comb workshop on Wednesday, I believe, Wednesday afternoon. And then just milling around the exhibit hall aside from the other courses that I'm going to be attending, and chatting with a bunch of the new companies coming out with different software as a service. There's Spentees, Proteers, Orton Shape, Fly Shape. There's Meticulous. Meticulous has a new interesting partnership with OPI. OPI is a database for patient information, and an EMR platform, and interesting relationship there. There's a couple other EMRs in the field, Nimble being one of them, and having this thought of directly integrating a digital software within an EMR like that would be interesting. Having those scans be directly held within the software, I think is useful for reimbursement purposes and being able to reference different scans over time. And then, obviously, if you have the design capabilities right there in the software, trying to minimize the number of softwares that you're using throughout the day is definitely helpful. So it's an interesting relationship through Meticulous. There are a couple other companies, Rodin4D and Rapid Plaster from PVA Med. Don't forget about them as well. Very nice, simple design for prosthetic test sockets at the moment, and hopefully some new stuff in the future. So a couple different design softwares out there that we're all going to be chatting, and from our individual thought processes around what this digital workflow should look like for prosthetics and orthotics. So if you're going to AOPA, definitely reach out to me through either the website or email or phone, and let's meet up, let's chat about what's possible in prosthetics and orthotics now. Aside from that, our trainings are continuing to be on the rise. After next week of being at AOPA, I'm going out to Charleston, South Carolina to be at Jameson Prosthetics. Ben Jameson, Ben and I have been doing some work together in the past here for a couple different devices, and he has an artillery Sidewinder X2 already. And we've been chatting about how does he get into 3D printing and what does he use it for. He does a lot of upper extremity rolled silicone to himself. He's an awesome technician too, aside from being a clinician. And he likes to have his hands involved with all these parts of the process, right? So he's one of these people who really likes to 3D print something. He would like to 3D print something himself. So in this case, our training program over the course of 2 days, I come on site to your location. There's an upfront fee as well as travel and accommodation reimbursement. But we bring you through the step-by-step process of going from a 3D scan to into Autodesk Mesh Mixer to clean up that scan, and or just bring it directly into one of these other CAD modification softwares clinically for P&O specifically, doing your clinical modifications to it, and then going into Autodesk Mesh Mixer to do a lot of this device design. The device design side of things is something that is, in my mind, very missing right now from some of these different softwares. It's getting there, and we're working with a couple of these companies to help them through that, to get them more wrapped around the idea of vase mode 3D printing specifically, because we've seen the strongest prints come from vase mode 3D printing, specifically through the Filament Innovations Icarus printer. And helping that CAD design side of things come along through Autodesk Mesh Mixer, a free software. So that's nice to start to use that to get your feet wet. Are there some benefits of maybe having a higher end software like Geomagic Freeform or Autodesk Fusion 360 to work with? There could be some benefits in maybe the workflow is a little bit more straightforward, but in some ways, in my mind, it's not. Honestly, it's a way more engineering heavy software of Geomagic Freeform and Fusion 360. And I personally don't think it's the best tool to use for these organically shaped objects, because of a little bit of clunkiness with a lot of different options, but also just the cost. And the cost for getting into 3D printing when someone is kind of hesitant about learning and spending all this time invested into learning the digital workflow can be a big hurdle for people. So we're trying to help with that through our training process. We'll show you our processes within Autodesk Mesh Mixer. We will record all those sessions there, and we also have other recordings of myself doing these different designs. We have a step-by-step manual that we give you as well. And then all of our slicer profiles through Prusa Slicer, another free software slicer program. And then Simplify 3D as well. We use that quite often. Just a low cost of that. I think it's $150 or something like that, around that range, under $200. The new version might be a little bit higher. But through these two programs, we will give you all of our slicer profiles, so that you can be printing on day one. We will also offer the Artillery Sidewinder X2 included in that as a package. So to get you started with a 3D printer that is usable out of the box, you don't have to modify any of that equipment to come up with some very nice printed products. Just because the printer itself is valued at $300 doesn't mean that you're getting crappy prints because of it. With thoughtful design processes, this design for additive manufacturing ideas, and getting into the slicing side of things and good materials management, you can have beautiful prints with very low cost hardware and free software. So if you're interested in either furthering your game in 3D printing within your clinic, or otherwise you're outside the prosthetics or orthotics industry and you want to work with us on some 3D printer training, we will be doing so for the black belt 3D printer as well, a new conveyor belt 3D printer that we are actively selling and servicing, installation and training services and ongoing troubleshooting support. If you're looking for any of these other high-end 3D printers, Filament Innovations, we work with them a lot. on their Icarus and Aries printers. Reach out to us, let us help you get started, or further your game in 3D printing. And it's worked really well for 12 different sites across the country so far, and counting. So we're really passionate about helping people empower themselves. It's you're not just giving a man a fish for their dinner, you're teaching a man to fish, teaching a woman to fish, teaching men and women to 3D print, anyone, any age to 3D print, whether you're young or old. You absolutely can learn these different tools if you just kind of spend the time with us in a very concentrated manner over the course of a couple of days. And then there's ongoing troubleshooting and training support that is monthly, on a monthly charge. And anything new that we come up with during those months, we automatically notify you. We tell you, hey, we have this new carbon fiber Poly Pro from PP Print, and we're printing some really, really robust prosthetic sockets and ankle foot orthoses with this as well. Hey, we're going to test this out with you. We'd love for you to try it out if you're interested. Here's the filament, here's the build tack surface, here's the PP bond that you need with it, and here's a slicer profile, and this is how we go about the design process. So we step you through all those different options to get you started, with new products as they come out from us. Another new product we got is our Fast Flex flexible inner socket that is with the NGen Flex TPU from Color Fab, which we will be getting more in stock soon. It's out of stock at the moment, but I just printed this. I do want to highlight this. This is a above knee flexible inner socket that was printed in just over 3.5 hours on the Filament Innovations Kratos. So in vase mode, really, really robust, uniform thickness, 3 millimeters, about 650 grams of material. We can have these new devices come out and implemented within our training sites as they come out. So if you're interested in training, interested in Arachnid3D, go check out Arachnid3D.com, check us out at AscentFab.com, and reach out to us today for your 3D printing and digital workflow needs. To finish it up today, our tech tip of the week even is, when you have a partially spooled filament, say you've done a print and you have a partial amount on that spool. Once that spool runs out of the filament, save that spool so that you can then weigh the empty spool, and then you can weigh other partially full spools of filament so that you can get the rest of the material printed in a certain print that will actually use that specific amount of material. So you can subtract the two weights, get those different weights to see, okay, I can print a small thing with this little amount of filament, and just make sure that you're not running out of filament mid-print too. Having a filament sensor on your printer is definitely very helpful as well. But that's our tech tip. Save your one of each empty spool for the materials that you use, and so that you can weigh it and get the amount of material on your partially full spool. So thanks again, everyone, for listening to the Fabrication Friday podcast. Reach out to us to hear about this training, and we'll chat soon. Thanks.